Today, we're digging into the absolute goldmine that is Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. And we're going to pull out the key principles you can actually use in your life right now. Carnegie's big idea, the one that everything else is built on, is that we aren't driven by logic. We're driven by emotion. Once you really get that, really get it, it changes how you see every single interaction. So if that's true, if we're all just walking around being driven by our feelings and our pride, then trying to influence someone with cold, hard logic is, well, it's just not going to work most of the time. The real path to influence is through empathy. It's about understanding what's really making someone tick. And no, this isn't about manipulation, it's about genuine connection. And that brings us to the core premise. See, trying to win a point with logic fails because, let's be honest, people aren't really looking to be corrected. What we all crave, deep down, is to feel important, to feel appreciated and validated. If you can appeal to that fundamental human desire, you'll have their full attention. Okay, so let's get practical. Let's dive into the fundamental techniques. And you'll see they all start with one simple, but honestly kind of radical shift. You have to move the spotlight off of yourself and shine it directly on the other person. These three things are the bedrock of the entire Carnegie method. Number one, and this is a tough one, resist that powerful urge to criticize, condemn, or complain. It just puts people on the defensive immediately. Number two, replace that criticism with honest, and the key word here is sincere appreciation. And third, learn to talk about things in terms of what the other person is interested in, not just what you want. Carnegie said, any fool can criticize, but it takes real character to understand. There's this incredible story about a famous test pilot, Bob Hoover, that just nails this point. A mechanic made a huge mistake and put the wrong fuel in his plane. A mistake that could have been fatal. But did Hoover yell? Did he criticize? No. He actually praised the mechanic for his excellent work in the past, and then requested that same mechanic service his plane the very next day. He knew that criticism would just create resentment, but showing faith like that builds unshakable loyalty. Okay, so once you have that foundation, we can build on it with 6 super simple but incredibly high-impact ways to make people genuinely like you. Think of these as the practical, everyday applications of that empathetic mindset. Now look, these aren't tricks you pull out of a bag. They're habits, they're disciplines. It's about actually becoming interested in other people. It's about a simple smile. It's about remembering their name. And it's definitely about being a good listener, encouraging them to talk about themselves. You see the pattern, right? Every single one of these is about respecting the other person and showing you value. This one is so powerful because it's so often overlooked. When you remember and use someone's name, you're paying them a huge, subtle compliment. You're basically saying, hey, I see you. You matter enough for me to remember. It's a small thing that makes a massive difference. Let's talk about how to apply all this stuff in our most difficult situations. Disagreements, arguments, and trying to change someone's mind. Carnegie's logic on this is just brilliant, and it's crystal clear. You literally cannot win an argument. Think about it. If you lose, well, you lose. But if you win, if you prove you're right and they're wrong, you've just bruised their ego and made them resent you. So you've still lost. The only way to get the best of an argument is to avoid it in the first place. So that brings up a really interesting question. If fighting is a lose-lose, what do? Especially when you realize you're the one who's actually in the wrong. The answer is so simple, but it takes courage. You just admit it. And you don't just mumble it. You admit it quickly and you admit it emphatically. Carnegie tells a story about getting caught by a police officer for walking his dog without a leash for the second time. And before the officer could even get a word out, Carnegie just let him have it, admitting how wrong he was. And what happened? The officer's entire attitude changed. By admitting fault so completely, Carnegie satisfied the officer's need to feel important. And so the officer's response was to be generous and forgiving. He started defending Carnegie. It completely flips the whole dynamic of the conversation. Here's another powerful tactic that works on the same principle. Before you even think about criticizing someone else, talk about your own mistakes first. Imagine a manager interviewing some nervous students. Instead of grilling them, he starts by telling an embarrassing story about his own first job interview. What does that do? It instantly relaxes them, makes him seem human. What if you need to get your ideas heard? You need to make an impact. Let's say you're an intern presenting your work to a bunch of senior managers. You know that just showing them a spreadsheet of your tasks is going to put them right to sleep. So, what do? Well, one intern in this exact situation didn't just show them the data, he dramatized it. He calculated the total dollar value of all the unpaid work he'd done and presented it as $133,000 that he had saved the company. Suddenly, the managers were wide awake and paying attention. It's proof that just stating a truth isn't enough. You have to make it vivid. You have to make it dramatic. All right, we've covered a ton of ground here. So how do we boil all this down into a simple framework that you can take away and start using today? Here are the essential takeaways. Number 1, Always remember, people are driven by emotion and their desire to feel important. 2. Shift your focus from me to you. 3. Stop arguing, and if you're wrong, admit it fast. 4. Begin with praise and make others feel genuinely valued. And 5. Don't just present your ideas, dramatize them. It all comes back to empathy. So I'll leave you with this question to think about. Knowing these ideas is one thing, but their real power comes from actually applying them. So think about just one conversation you're going to have today. Which one of these principles could you try out that might change the entire outcome?